Hi guys, it's Al with Longoriahaus Dog Training. I'm here joined with my friend Mandy, who just punched me for no
Friend.
reason.
We use that term very loosely.
Yeah. So she just punched me for no reason whatsoever. Well, maybe I did stick my finger in her ear or something like that. So,
Yeah.
well, hey guys, thanks so much for joining us tonight for our live show. This is episode what? Jade, what episode is this? Episode number 32 of Ask Al. Hey, thanks so much for everybody for joining in. The format for tonight is that you ask questions. I give you as detailed of answers as I possibly can, and yeah, that's kind of how it goes. So, if this is your first time joining us, thank you. If you're back, like, wow, really? Thank you so much for coming back to watch the live show again. So I guess with that, I don't have any announcements or anything of that nature. So we'll go ahead and let Mandy get ready, and she's going to start off with our first question. Oh yeah, and if you guys have any questions, drop those down in the comment section below, and we'll be sure that any of y'all's questions actually get priority. So if you ask a question, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 that I want to go over. But if you ask a question, we'll make sure to answer that next in line. Okay, so Mandy, question number 1.
Okay, number 1. I'm going to pick up a new 8-week-old puppy, and it's a 2-hour drive. She will be crated during the drive. What can I do to make this trip comfortable and less stressful, since she has never been in a crate or been away from her mother?
Well, one thing for sure is you want to definitely take your time on the trip. I don't think it's so much about like trying to get from where you're picking the puppy up to your house. So don't be trying to drive like breakneck speeds. Obviously, that seems pretty obvious, but the excitement of a new puppy can sometimes kind of make you forget about that. So just take it really slow, take it real easy. Now, I'm going to begin to give some more practical steps here. One of the things that you can ask the breeder or the person that's had this puppy, depending if it's a rescue dog or if you're buying this dog from a breeder or whatnot, is if the mother is available, then you want to get a blanket that actually has the mother scent on there to put it inside of the crate as you travel. So if you don't have access to the mother, then the thing that I'm going to recommend is that the human that the dog is most bonded to, that they would actually have a blanket with the human's scent on there. Now, one thing that we actually recommend for all of our clients, regardless of transporting them or really just trying to create calmness, is 1 or 2 drops of lavender oil in your hand and then putting that on the blanket if you don't have those other 2. So the mother dog would be my first option. The second option would be to get a human scent, and then the third option would be to put some lavender down on the blanket inside the crate. I prefer wireframe crates for this kind of thing, so that way I can have the dog next to me, or the dog can see me as they're traveling. But I don't think you could go wrong one way or another in a wireframe or in a crate. Mandy, I'm just kind of thinking, like, I know you've transported dogs long distance. Do you have any recommendations about stuff that any stuff that you've done?
I mean, it depends on the breed, really. If it's a small dog, I mean, if it's a puppy, they're usually in my lap. I don't know, that's probably wrong, but I usually hold them.
Well, it's not wrong if it works,
I mean,
right?
I usually hold them because that's just...
That might not be a bad idea.
They freak out in the crate.
That might not be a bad idea, is to actually have, if it's a really small puppy, to have them in your hands. But, I kind of think about a really, really excited dog as you're driving and you're trying to contend with that if you're driving for 2 hours, may not be safe. So one other thing that I'm kind of thinking of, and it's not something that I've ever done, but we do follow other trainers that deal with different kinds of dogs. And one thing that I've seen pop up now and again is that dogs are being put into kennels with a bale of hay. And there's something about the hay, I wish I could get a little bit more scientific about it, but there's something about the hay that actually kind of calms the dog. So putting the hay inside of the containment, it's pretty easy to clean out of a vehicle. Will actually be able to do. Now, obviously, don't go buy a round bale, but a small little square bale should probably do just fine. So those are some of the tips that give you. Drive slow. Make sure that you have a blanket with either the mom scent, the most bonded human, or maybe a couple of drops of lavender oil and then possibly putting some hay inside of the containment. And as Mandy said, you may also consider, based on the temperament of the dog, carrying the dog in your home. Hey, maybe you could alternate between those two different things. Some crate time, some of that, lots of frequent stops. And so if you don't want to stress the puppy out, if the puppy gets stressed, take a 30-minute stop at Buc-ee's for a little bit, let the puppy get out on some grass, doing those things. And then maybe that's not quite a good idea with the puppy. Yeah, don't let the puppy out on grass because there's animals there, so would want to avoid that. Just take it slow, take it easy. Yeah, they may whine the whole way, but I think they'll be fine. Like, to be honest, for this question, when I got Gabby was flown to me, and when I looked at the manifest or whatever the thing is called, where Gabby actually went, Gabby flew from Kansas City, flew north away from Texas, and then back down to Texas was the way that she came to Houston. And so, and then the first day she was okay, but the next week, that whole week, she was a sick little puppy.
Aww.
And because the flight really stressed her, but now the dog is solid. So
how old was she when that?
She was right at 8 weeks.
Wow.
She was right at 8 weeks.
Aww.
Yeah, the day that they could ship her, we got her in. So yeah, but what I'll tell you is anybody that's just kind of worried about the puppy, transporting, and that, dogs can handle stress particularly well, just like humans do. And so I think that's, I think you're going to be okay one way or another. So, okay, what's next?
Okay. Next is, I want to have fun with my dog, but he's so bad. How can I change the way he listens to me?
It's tough. It's tough when you have a bad dog and that they're, maybe you really love them, but everything about them, they're constantly jumping on your loved ones. They don't listen to you when you ask them to do certain things. They run away from you. They're constantly pulling on a leash. They're just doing all those things. Maybe they're counter surfing. Maybe they're knocking your kids over, or maybe if you have a little puppy, it's extremely, extremely mouthy. The two tips that we give everybody, and these are kind of some universal things that I'm just really discovering, or really just trying, not really discovering, but really just trying to let people know that they're very useful, is honestly keeping a leash on, and really don't let the dog eat out of a bowl of food. I took some video this weekend. I'm hoping to show it to you guys here on the YouTube channel pretty soon, but I actually showed the process that I use to get all the amazing attention that I get from my dogs. So if you watch, it's going to be like a 45-second virtual reality video. But if you watch what I do in that video and then you multiply that, you do that 40, 50 times a day while you're hand feeding your dog, and then you multiply that over the course of the next year, your voice is going to become a powerhouse. It's going to become that kind of thing that every dog that you do that with is going to want to listen to you because your voice is just so incredibly valuable. So when you have a bad dog and you're needing them to pay attention and needing them to get better, one, begin to hand feed the dog. And then two, keep things real simple for you. As humans, I notice that we tend, when we're struggling with our relationships with our dogs and maybe even with each other, that we begin to look at all the problems and we don't actually seek out what the actual solution to that problem is. We say, you're doing this, you're doing this, you're doing this. That's blaming, and humans are pretty good at doing that. Well, with your dog, when you think about it, if you start blaming all the dog for doing all these things, all those things are actually surrounding the one or two things that you actually need your dog to do, which could be, hey, can you stay in a down while I cook food for my family? Or will you sit by my side whenever I answer the door? Or when you see little kids running, I want you to turn around and come back. So just getting real practical about any one of those three things, and then starting to show the dog that your life revolves around that while you're dispensing their daily food and wearing a leash. Yeah, honestly, that's a lot of how we train. I know that's an oversimplified version, but maybe it's not oversimplified. Maybe if we just focused and kept it that simple, that we would actually become even more successful with our dog. So if you're struggling with your dog, start training today. Don't have training sessions, but definitely make it part of the way that you live. And I think it's going to have a really huge effect. Actually, I guarantee that it'll have a huge effect on what's going on with your dog.
You want to plug some wine?
No, yeah, and hey, so hey, thanks so much to some of my clients. You guys shared some wine with me, and so man, I got to tell y'all, this is some terrific wine. So really very good. So man, I just love you guys. I love my clients. You guys are just incredible people. Thanks so much for inviting me to come into your home each and every week. I think I see 30 families this week, so it's just such an honor for me to be able to come into your home to share what I'm so passionate about, and then just to see the remarkable changes that when you take the advice that you're taking from somebody that you don't even know, that you're really trusting to come into your family, and then you apply that advice, and we see the life change that's happening. It's just really amazing to me to see, what we're able to do. I can't tell you how happy it makes me that when I finish up with a family, that I see that their lives are better as a consequence of what we did. There's not a lot of things that are better than that for me. I just absolutely love it. Absolutely love working with you guys. And so for everybody that's watching tonight, hey, thanks so much for your attention. It's so valuable to me. It means so much to me. I'm humbled that you would spend any time listening to me. But if I can bring any value to you in helping you raise a happy dog, a reliable dog, a sport dog, a therapy dog, make your dog less aggressive, any of those things, man, I'm just so happy to do it. Hey, and if you haven't already, it would mean a lot to me, and this really is something that you could do to help us. There's that thumbs up button that's on the screen. If you would press that button, it really just kind of helps to spread the word that, hey, this message is relevant and that other people should watch that. You can definitely share it, and if you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe to the channel. That means so much to us that you would do that. Okay, so
cool.
Yeah, what's next?
In regards to playing well with other dogs, Martian doesn't exactly do well. How can I change that?
So, not every dog plays well with dogs. I'm going to tell you that when I watch Gabby and Fritz in the backyard begin to play, Gabby's pretty rough. She's real rough. If you see this painting that's back behind me, the dog in the middle, that's Jasmine. At the time that I got Gabby, Jasmine was, I think she was 10 years old. And I'm just going to tell you at the beginning, I didn't let Gabby play with Jasmine at all. But that's not really what you asked, right? Well, I think part of the answer for Martian, and for those guys that don't know, Martian's a Doberman that trained with us some time ago, but he does struggle being around dogs. So here's my take on Martian, okay? I feel that he should be allowed to play with some dogs if the relationship with the humans is good. But how can you actually go about that when your dog is already playing so poorly with all the other dogs? So the main thing that I actually recommend is going to be kind of 4 different things that you can do. So one thing, you could go to a dog park but not enter, and train your dog on the outside to pay attention to you. So outside of the dog park, where dogs are still unleashed, still under the control of their owners, you could teach your dog to become more passive towards the dogs. That's going to be step 1. Step 2 is actually going for walks in neighborhoods or in human parks where dogs are on leash, and begin to teach your dog how to have manners in and around them. As you begin to see your dog de-escalate and get less excited around dogs, this is a good time to actually begin to consider that. But if your dog has not played well with other dogs in the past, and what you're doing is you have this excited dog and you're hoping, with your heart of hearts, that your dog will actually play with the other dog, it's probably not going to work out well for you. Now, there's some mistakes that folks make when they introduce dogs. And I've seen video after video after video that the people want the dogs to mate. Both dogs are at the end of the leash. And then there's a ton of tension because the owners are unsure. And then the next thing that you have, it's a dog fight because of all the tension that was building up to it. If your dog is relatively calm and then the other dog is calm, slack your leashes, keep it entirely slack, and let the dogs smell each other. And look, you're going to have to kind of play it by ear. If they start acting really bad, well, then you can pull them away and create some calmness again with some of your calming exercises, and then bring them back together. And then from there, you just begin to see. Now, don't look, if you look at the other dog, or if you look at your dog and all the hairs, all the hackles on the back are standing up, it's probably not a great idea to let them become friends or try to become friends, okay? You're gonna have to take your time. One thing that I tell everybody is that I think that a dog's best friend should be their owner and not another dog. There's so many reasons for it, and I'm not gonna go into too much of it, but I just want you to know that being your dog's best friend is really what your dog was bred for, whether it comes from a breeder or from a rescue. Your dog was bred to be with humans, and spending time one-on-one with your dog and showing them how much you care for them and how much you want to play with them and how important it is that they listen to you is definitely the way to go. But de-escalating your dog and teaching it how to be calm in the presence of other dogs is a good step to take before you actually introduce your dog to new dogs. Mandy, do you have anything you'd like to add to this topic? Like, what have you seen? You deal with rescue a lot more than me, and maybe not everybody can kind of follow that advice. So, what have you seen that actually works?
Well, I mean, it's funny you say that. Like, one of my rescue founders has a lot of dogs at her house, and she also boards. And every time a new dog comes in, it's like a lot. It's okay, at least like maybe 15 dogs all run up to that dog, and it looks like I always think that a fight is about to break out. Every time I get so scared, but nothing ever happens. So it's weird that. So
what do you think? Like, I love the example that you just gave. So why did that work? Why does that work and not the one-on-one meeting work? And here's I'm going to give you my educated guess, but I can't tell you exactly. The pressure of the pack. That's it. The pressure of 15 dogs that are already in harmony put pressure on the new dog and to submit to that hierarchy.
Okay.
Having 15 people rush up to you isn't going to make you throw swings in most situations.
True, that's
it's
true.
going to, like, if you're a human and you get rushed by 15 people, you're more likely to go in the fetal position than you are to do that, unless you're armed, right? And that's a little different. But if you have 15 people of equal power running up in the direction of you to come and sniff you, and you're a dog, that's a ton of pressure. And if you just think about the power that's coming there, that's probably what's telling you to calm down.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the excitement is what builds up the fight.
But what happens is the dogs come up, and then there's a wall of dogs around them, and they're all just closely pressed in. And I think that has a lot to do with it. But when it's one-on-one, the humans are behind, the leashes are tight, everything's right here. All the pressure is coming from the other dog and telling the dog to load forward instead of the dog being here, and all the pressure kind of enveloping the dog, and then the dog moves away from the pressure.
Yeah.
Instead of loading into it, which is what happens when they're on these big ass, half-inch collars.
Yeah, that's true. So I foster German Shepherds, and I own German Shepherds. When I brought in a new foster with the German Shepherds, I always introduce them by bringing my personal dog outside to the street and someone else had the other dog, and I always do the butt sniffing because
it's really powerful.
So
man.
I'll hold the foster dog and let my dog sniff their butt, and then do the same thing. And it seems like after that's done and they get their sniffing done, then
something that I say to clients, and maybe I haven't said on the air before, but dogs can detect down to 6. All right, guys. Sorry about that audio problem. Let's see. Does it say there?
No.
Who are you and what are you doing? And it says, what am I doing? I'm talking about dog training. It's not. Well, this is a wine show. We're talking about wine, so that's fine.
Can you still not hear it? No audio? Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Okay.
So, what was I? Yeah. So a dog has an incredibly powerful nose, and so the dog can actually sense all that. So I've de-escalated some really nervous dogs by sticking my finger in my mouth, putting saliva on it, and then when the dog comes up to me, they smell that. There's some research that was actually out a couple of years ago. Maybe it's been longer than that, but I'm a believer in it just because it's been repeated so many times, and I'm hoping that's really true. But if you're a human, and if you take this pose for 2 minutes, or if you take the Wonder Woman pose, hands on hips, and if you stand like that for 2 minutes, the research that I read says that you release 30% more salivary testosterone.
Okay.
So, okay, yeah, but so testosterone is a powerful thing in the animal
kingdom. Do that?
No, anybody, like women and men can both do that. And so it has a lot to do with confidence and how powerful you are. And if you look at any human, even a blind human, if they achieve something, they will throw their hands up over the air in victory without ever seeing another human. So it's not a learned behavior. It's a primal behavior that humans have that shows power. And so does the hands on the hips. So when you do that, so what I did is I was kind of thinking about that and thinking about these aggressive dogs that I work, and I'm like, okay, well, maybe I need to de-escalate them. And so then I read something about another dog trainer that was spitting into his hands and wiping it on the muzzle before he met the dogs. So I thought, okay, well, this is a really good opportunity for me to kind of test it. So I've been testing it for about 6 months now. And you're never going to know the difference if you didn't do it.
Yeah.
But I do know that in the instances that I've done that, the dogs have actually responded pretty well to me. That's not to say that it wasn't for any of the other reasons that, I know how to train dogs, but I stood like that before the aggressive dog came out, or I had my hands on my hips while I was talking to my prospective clients. And then I told them the thing that I just shared with you guys, put my finger in my mouth, and then when the dog came out, it smelled that. And then I've always been able to work the dogs after that. So it just stands to reason, at least to me, that, hey, I take this pose, it releases salivary testosterone, I put that saliva into my hand, the dog's nose comes up there and smells it. Now the dog can understand how to de-escalate in a situation when it's meeting another individual. So you could say like a really bully dog, not bully breeds, but a dog that's the bully in temperament, if it comes up to another dog and it smells that they're weak, then maybe that's a signal to start the fight. Yeah. Because their world is way more driven by scent. That always scares me. Yeah. Way more driven by scent than ours is. So, even though I like the smell of fajitas and things like that, I think So apparently Mandy does too. Yeah. Okay.
That's all I can think about right now, actually. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah. No, it's all good. Okay. You only got 4 more questions to get through to get to you. Hey guys, if any of y'all, for those guys that are watching, thanks so much for watching tonight. If you haven't already, please be sure to give this a thumbs up if this is any good. If it's not any good, then please give us a thumbs down. But then I kind of want to know.
Do that.
Yeah, no, you can do that. You can give the thumbs down, but if you're going to give a thumbs down, then please, write in the comments like why we're getting the thumbs down. So maybe we could do something better. Is the lighting bad? Do you not like this awesome painting that's behind us? Do you not like that I'm, drinking this awesome glass of wine? So anyway, do you not like my goatee? I don't know. So okay. What's next, Mandy?
Where's the best place to socialize a dog if not the dog park?
Okay, yeah, so I kind of talked about this in the last one. I think there's a couple of other places. So one, you could socialize your dog at the front of the dog park. You could socialize your dog socialize your dog at dog parks. You could socialize your dog at human parks, walking around other humans and other dogs. And you could also socialize your dog in group dog training classes or in pack walks. All sorts of different trainers do them. I do pack walks. I do some group sessions, okay? But those are really great places to be able to do that. And heck, I think a really great place, depending on your neighborhood, I know all of our neighborhoods are a little different, but if your neighborhood doesn't have a whole bunch of loose dogs, walking your dog in your neighborhood is a great way to socialize. Meet your neighbors, meet their dogs. Stop and sit your dog as you meet other people. But I think if you're looking for the most intensive and fastest way to socialize your dog, group dog training classes. Group dog training classes are definitely the way to go because there's a lot of predictability there. You may not be getting a lot of obedience, but you're going to get a lot of control. on your dog because your leash is going to be present. And so that's a really good way to do. Another way, just to kind of cross my mind, is you could go to these events where rescue dogs are being adopted out, and maybe you take your dog, you volunteer some of your time with the rescue organization, but you also have your dog out there in a crate, and then you bring your dog out, and just doing that could actually be a way to be able to do that. I know when I had Gabby at a very, very young age, there was in Kingwood there was Barktoberfest, and at Barktoberfest I brought my dogs out and had them there, and this was a really great way for them just to be in the hustle and bustle of humanity and being able to understand what they were supposed to, how to just, take it all in and respond. Okay. Yeah. What's next?
How do I teach my dog not to jump and bark at people? It's so hard, and people are so scared of him because he's a pit bull.
Obviously the pit bull breed doesn't, that they can be scary. They're not a bad breed, but they definitely need to be understood for what they are. A pit bull is a terrier, and terriers are very prey-driven dogs. That means that they like to chase after things that move. And the more you move, the more that it wants to chase. And it's not that it's a bad dog. It's part of their working heritage is to do those kinds of things. So, let me read that. So how do you teach your dog not to jump? I always tell my clients this, and I come back to it over and over again. I go back to it every single day, and every single time that I get a question like this. So let's just go a little clinical for a second. I want to talk about reinforcement and punishment. Reinforcement is the act of increasing the rate of any behavior. The ways that you can do that is that anytime a dog is doing what you want, you associate comfort and you associate pleasure to those things, among other things. But if you think about it in terms of comfort and pleasure, your dog does what you want. Comfort and pleasure should abound in those situations. And the formation of habits, which is how you ultimately defeat any kind of bad behavior, comes through a high amount of reward, not from a single individual repetition, but from literally thousands of repetitions of the dog getting it right. Now, on the flip side of reinforcement is the act of punishment. Punishment, for whatever reason, is an ugly word, but punishment is fantastic. It's a great thing because it clarifies to your dog, it clarifies to other humans where the boundaries are. The first thing about punishment that each and every one of us needs to get right, and myself included, is can you visualize where that boundary is? Because if you cannot visualize where that boundary is, when has a dog literally crossed the line that it's not okay to do that? If you can't do that, then you're going to struggle with this behavior. You're going to struggle with jumping. So the first thing you got to do is you have a clear idea of when has a dog now crossed the line, and now I need to tell the dog you're not allowed to do that. So now you have the image in your head of what it is that you don't want the dog to do. Now you must be prepared to be relevant. How do you need to be relevant? You need to be relevant by being prepared to make the dog uncomfortable and frustrated. Frustration comes easy. Don't let them make contact with the person. Becoming uncomfortable could be you have a prong collar on them when they begin to jump, or before or right at the moment they think about jumping, that prong collar goes tight, and then when they move away from doing that thing that is bad for them, that the prong collar would release, and there you go. There's punishment. But the hard thing for people is that we give dogs all this freedom. They're running around our homes. They're maybe we're giving them too much freedom. The most common time that people get jumped on is when they're coming home from work. You walk in the door, the dog is excited to see you. They think you're their friend, and you are, and they jump on you to initiate play, and you get mad. Okay? So there, your dog probably needed to be on a leash, and a human needed to be on the other side of the leash, and then the moment that the dog jumped, somebody should have used the leash to tell the dog this is a bad idea. And yes, that means uncomfortable. Should it be pretty? No. The emotion of, anytime that you're being told no, nobody's smiling and saying like, oh, this is the most wonderful thing ever. Nobody's doing that. The dog should be frustrated, which doesn't look beautiful. and the dog should be uncomfortable. But if that's all you're ever doing with your dog, you're getting it wrong. You got to show the dog that, hey, you should have been sitting by my left-hand side. You should have been down behind the couch when we opened the front door. You have to know where they should have been, and then you got to hammer that into them with a lot of, with a lot of petting, a lot of praise, a lot of reward, for them to understand that this is the thing that I'm supposed to do. And that's the real answer. Punish the dog for sure, great. That's 1% of the work. Do the work of showing the dog what it is that you actually want it to do, and now you're going to be in a really good position. So it's tough, and people are afraid of him, but you shouldn't be afraid of your dog, and you shouldn't be afraid to punish well, and then even more, and then on the other side of that, you should reward your pit bull very well for doing the things that you asked them to. All right.
Well, we had a question,
Okay.
Andrea. I hope I'm saying.
Okay, yeah, so I'm going to read. I'll go ahead and read it. Yeah, she's one of my clients. I'm still having issues with my dog barking and lunging at my dad. Odin gets nervous, I think around him at night. How can I help him get over it? Is this a dominance thing? Fear is not necessarily a dominance thing, Andrea, but what I'll tell you is that if he's getting nervous around your dog, this is the time that you let your dad come in. And you start doing place training. And you show, your dad's going to have to grab the leash. You're going to have to grab the leash. And then you're going to have to show the dog to de-escalate. But then the other avenue that you could take is you could begin to focus your dog. You could focus your dog on the way that you want them to. So I would fast your dog up to the point that your dad is going to be in the room. And then maybe play the treat toss game. Maybe do some hand touch games. Maybe do some spins and some twirls, something fun. But somewhere in between learning how to de-escalate, but learning to focus on the human so I can do something fun is how you're actually going to do it. But if you just look at those two things that I said, both of those require a leash and the dog's food. If you don't have either one of those and you're just hoping to talk, then it's really difficult for the dog to be able to understand that. Just remember that when you're trying to relate to your dog, there is a hierarchy to the languages, and the languages are touch, the languages are scent, so your leash and collar, the dog's food, so pressure, scent, motion, and sound. If you're trying to talk to your dog and your body is wildly moving and you have no food and no leash, it's not going to come out well. And so you want to make sure that those things are there, go totally silent, and then begin to try to clarify. But again, like I just said this a moment ago, I think that a lot of people struggle, like, what should my dog do? So keep it simple. Maybe you just have the dog sit by your dad's left-hand side, and your dad holds the leash there as your dog learns how to calm down. Maybe you have your dad grab the leash and put him on his bed, and when he de-escalates, then putting some nice calm petting in as he feeds the dog. That's a surefire way to be able to do that. But, and I don't think this is you, Andrea, but if you're trying to de-escalate your dog and your dog is constantly loose inside the home, then it's just really tough to be able to tell them that that's the thing that you want them to do. Well, hey, Andrea, if this is still an issue, I know I'm going to see you next Saturday. If it's an issue, I definitely want to hit it head on to be able to solve this for you guys. But thanks so much for the question.
Okay, you want another one?
Yeah, what's next?
The next one is, if you could change one thing about the way you train, what would it be?
Wow. If I could change one thing about the way that I train, what would it be? Man, that's a really tough question, actually.
I didn't write it.
Like, yeah, no, but
that
it's
is, yeah, I don't know
it's a good question. But if I could change, I think about this. I think about this a lot. So the way that I'm currently training with my clients and with my dogs, it's working, and it's working really, really well. And this is like, maybe I'm bragging, guys. I'm like, if it is, this is an humble brag. But man, I'm watching what's happening, and it's literally pretty amazing what's going on in people's lives and with their dogs. I wish I could read you guys better sometimes. Maybe I could say that, like, understanding how to read humans and how to say the right thing to you at the right time, and to articulate to you in a way that you could always totally comprehend what I'm saying. I think that's the thing that I really push myself the hardest is how can I find a way to break through to the humans that are in front of me for them to really understand what I'm saying. I'm constantly working at it. And so if there's anything that I could change is, am I actually clear with you and to have you understand? Because believe it or not, guys, when you guys hire us, when you guys hire Longoriahaus, when you guys hire Al, the dog trainer, to come into your home, I want you to say that I never need another dog trainer for the rest of my life because I understand the fundamentals and I know how to apply them. And then again, because of the work that everybody that here in this room is working so hard to do, is we're trying to put out so much content about everything that we continue to learn and continue to do. So I wouldn't change anything about the equipment that we're currently using. I will still use remote collars, prong collars, slip leashes, tugs, flirt poles, food, treats, clickers, treat pouches. I'll use everything as long as it's clear to the dog. And I think I've pretty much gotten the dogs figured out really, really well. But it's the humans that are more tricky. So if you guys don't know, I guess now you see all the stuff that we're doing. We're doing videos in virtual reality. You know, why am I doing that? Well, so I maybe I told this to Mandy the other day. No, I didn't tell Mandy, but the other day, I had my iPhone and I had one of the virtual reality videos on there and I handed it to some adults and I got the typical response that I see from adults, which is cool. They had the phone to their face for maybe about 30 seconds as they were watching the 3D VR video. But then I handed the phone over to a 12-year-old boy and he watched probably 20 minutes of videos. He watched 20 minutes of videos, and then this one I knew, like, okay, I really know that I'm onto something because it engaged with that young man, and you know, a decade from now when he needs to train with his kids. So, if there's any one thing that I could change in my training, is that I want to be able to be clear to each and every human on the face of the planet, and it's really the thing that I'm striving for and you know, striving for and aiming for on a daily basis. Man, great question.
Yeah. I know getting through to people can be a
Yeah, it's tough,
challenge.
man. Yeah, you know, we're trying.
Yeah.
We're trying our best. Thanks, Gary V. So,
Yeah.
yeah, if y'all don't know who that is, well, maybe you can ask me. So, all right. Any other questions?
Just one last one. It's about...
Yeah, Jamie. Yeah, no, Jamie, I'll tell you. You say you articulate fine and clear. Well, yeah, but look, I'm going to tell you there's people that I will say things to, and they don't get it. And I'm kind of in the place in my life now that I'm not blaming anybody else for anything that's going on in my life. If something is wrong, it's 110% my fault. And so I think, like, you know, I'll tell something to a human and then I'll watch the human try to execute it and it's completely wrong. And I'm like, well, what do I do here? And so I got to continue to find ways to clarify, to be clear, to create, you know, whatever it is. Do I need to, I even started asking people in their initial consultations with me, how do you learn better? Do you learn by reading? Do you learn by listening? Podcast. Do you learn by listening? Do you listen? Do you learn by doing? Do you learn by watching? Do you learn by experiencing? I'm like, well, how is it that you learn? And then I try to have something for them that we've developed to be able to do that. So, yeah, look, I feel that I do articulate fine and clear for the vast majority of people, but everybody that owns a dog, I want to help them in any way that I can, and I feel it's my responsibility to do that well.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I
Good.
didn't mean to
No,
cut you off.
that's good. That's good. Okay, well, last question is, when should dogs be taught to get onto treadmills?
So when?
Or why? Yeah, when.
Is it a when? Is it a
Well, it's a when.
It's a when.
Yeah.
After they're walking well on a leash for you. But there's something to be said. There's something to be said about putting a dog on a treadmill that's struggling with leash walking out in the neighborhood because of reactivity.
Is that why they would be on a treadmill in the first place?
No, man, treadmill training is really great. Like if it's 20 degrees outside and snowing and your dog needs a walk, getting on a treadmill is a fantastic thing because otherwise there's going to be frostburn and all sorts of other things going on. So, you know, there's a lot of reasons that dogs need to get on treadmills, but, you know, just giving the dog the active exercise of getting on a treadmill and walking with it, and that there's not really a human right there right next to you, it's a great mental exercise for a dog. So I think that every dog should, you know, learn how to get on a treadmill, but it's not necessary, but I think it's something that would definitely benefit them.
Like if that's the only way that you can exercise.
And that's it, like it's going to be 100 degrees. We're going to be checking concrete to see how hot it is here in the next in the next 8 weeks. And so saying that, if you have a treadmill in your house and you really need to have one of these longer ones, or you need to have one that's specifically designed for a dog, getting your dog and teaching it how to get on a treadmill could be a really good thing for your dog, especially if it's sedentary in your nice air conditioned home all day long. You know, that's an important thing for your dog. But hey, you know, we have the treat toss game, which I talk about, you know, to no end. But the treat toss game is also a really good game to play with your dog inside of the home to be able to wear them out. So, but I think you should, I think that once you've actually taught the dog how to go to its place, and your leash walking is going well, and you've got just your typical dog, not like a dog aggressive dog, I think that's a good time to actually begin to teach the dog how to get on a treadmill. But if your dog is dog aggressive, getting them on a treadmill and teaching them how to move and get that energy out is really important. One thing that I like to do in our training program is on week 3 we actually go out and we learn the dance of walking together, and so we're teaching dogs how to move with their clients. When there's about 15 minutes left in the session, I begin to move us back into my client's home. And then at that point, I want the dog to spend the last 10 minutes of the session on a play stay. Because I like the practicality of, we just went out to town, went out with the dog, did all this walking, loaded the vehicle up, came back home, and now the dog gets put back on their place, back in a down, and then we go unload the vehicle from whatever we bought, and the dog's still there, and then we give the dog a really nice kind of toy for having done that. And so that's just something that I like to do for my dogs. But yeah. So anyway, well, I don't.
Cool.
Are there any other
It.
questions? Okay.
No more on them.
Should I chug the rest of my wine now?
Yeah, chug.
No, not gonna chug. This is not chugging wine. This is
some
really,
people chug wine.
Yeah, but I'm not. This was too nice of a gift for me to chug. But it looks like I got some work.
Yeah.
I got some work to do tonight.
I'll leave that for you.
Yeah. So thanks, Mandy. You're too nice. So. All right, guys. Well, I guess we're done. So hey, thanks so much for joining us. I love you guys so much. I'm looking forward to seeing all of you guys. Thanks so much for subscribing, for liking, for commenting, or heck, just even watching and giving your attention tonight. So have a good evening, and we'll see y'all soon. Good night, guys. Take care. Bye.